Edward the Confessor. An overview. Edward the Confessor reigned as King of England from 1042 to 1066. His rule was marked by a complex interplay of Anglo-Saxon traditions and growing Norman influence. He is often seen as the last effective Anglo-Saxon king before the Norman conquest. Edward's reign is crucial for understanding the events of 1066, as his childlessness and various political decisions directly contributed to the succession crisis. His personal piety earned him the title the Confessor, reflecting his deep religious devotion. Edward's Norman exile and return. Edward spent much of his early life, from 1016 to 1041, in exile in Normandy following the Danish conquest of England. This period profoundly shaped his outlook, fostering strong ties and a deep affinity for Norman culture and customs. He was educated at the Norman court, which exposed him to a different style of governance and military organization. Upon his return to England and ascension to the throne, Edward brought many Norman advisors and friends with him. This influx of Norman influence into the English court and church caused resentment among the Anglo-Saxon nobility, who viewed these newcomers with suspicion. The king, earls, and Witan. In Anglo-Saxon England, the king was the most powerful person, holding ultimate authority over lawmaking, money, taxation, and land ownership. The king also commanded the Fyrd, the national army and fleet, which was a crucial aspect of royal power. To govern effectively, the king relied on powerful earls, who administered large regions on his behalf, and the Witan, a council of leading men. While the Witan advised the king, it did not limit his power. The king appointed its members and was not obliged to follow its advice. Earls were granted significant powers, including collecting royal taxes, keeping a third for their own administration, overseeing law and order, and leading military forces. The vast size of earldoms meant that powerful earls could sometimes challenge royal authority, as seen with the Godwin family. Edward's struggle with the Godwins. The House of Godwin, led by Earl Godwin of Wessex, became exceptionally powerful during Edward's reign, controlling vast lands and earldoms across England. This dominance was further cemented through strategic political marriages, such as Edward's own marriage to Edith, Godwin's daughter. Edward, seeking to assert his independence, attempted to reduce the Godwins' influence in the 1050s. He tried to rely more on his Norman friends and advisors, which led to significant tension and a brief exile of the Godwins in 1051. However, the Godwins returned with a large fleet in 1052, forcing Edward to pardon them rather than risk a civil war. This event highlighted the extent of the Godwins' power and Edward's limited ability to control them, ultimately leaving the family in a dominant position. Harold's controversial Normandy embassy. In 1064 or 1065, King Edward sent Harold Godwinson on an embassy to Normandy. The exact purpose of this mission remains debated by historians, with Norman and English sources offering conflicting accounts. Norman accounts claim Harold swore allegiance to William, recognizing him as Edward's successor. During the embassy, Harold was captured by Count Guy of Ponthieu, but was rescued by William, Duke of Normandy. Harold then fought alongside William in a campaign, receiving gifts of weapons and armor, further cementing a bond between them. A crucial element was Harold's solemn oath, sworn to William. Norman sources used this oath to later accuse Harold of being an oathbreaker when he took the English crown, thereby legitimizing William's claim to the throne and his subsequent invasion. The Northumbrian revolt against Tostig. In October 1065, Northumbrian thanes revolted against Tostig Godwinson, Earl of Northumbria, marching on York. Their grievances stemmed from Tostig's harsh rule, including his severe crackdown on lawlessness, abuse of power, and overtaxation. He was also criticized for befriending Malcolm III of Scotland instead of fighting him. The rebels invited Morcar, the brother of Edwin, Earl of Mercia, to be their new earl. King Edward ordered his earls to suppress the uprising, but they found reasons not to obey, indicating the deep-seated discontent with Tostig. Harold Godwinson, acting on King Edward's behalf, eventually agreed to the rebels' demands, leading to Tostig's replacement by Morcar and his subsequent exile by November 1st, 1065. This decision, while weakening the House of Godwin, arguably strengthened Harold's own claim to the throne by showing his willingness to act for England's good. The contested succession. After Edward the Confessor died childless on January 5, 1066, plunging England into a severe succession crisis. This lack of a direct heir meant that several powerful figures, both within England and abroad, could put forward claims to the throne. The main claimants were Harold Godwinson, who claimed Edward appointed him on his deathbed, William, Duke of Normandy, who based his claim on an earlier agreement with Edward and papal backing, and Harald Hardrada, King of Norway, who claimed the throne through a secret Viking pact. Edgar Atheling, a young royal descendant, also had a theoretical claim, but lacked practical support. The Witan, the Anglo-Saxon council, traditionally had the right to elect the king, though usually from the royal line. Their decision to crown Harold Godwinson the day after Edward's funeral, on January 6, 1066, was a pragmatic choice aimed at securing a strong leader in a time of imminent threat. Edward's lasting impact on England. Edward the Confessor's reign, though often overshadowed by the Norman conquest, had a profound and lasting impact on England. His deep religious piety led to the construction of Westminster Abbey, a significant architectural and spiritual landmark that would become the traditional coronation site for English monarchs. His reliance on Norman advisors and his long-standing ties to Normandy inadvertently paved the way for William's invasion. The political marriages and power struggles with the Godwins also destabilized the Anglo-Saxon aristocracy, making England more vulnerable to external threats. Ultimately, Edward's childlessness was the most direct catalyst for the events of 1066. Without a clear, undisputed heir, the competing claims of Harold, William, and Harald Hardrada escalated into the invasions and battles that irrevocably changed the course of English history.